This is Bill Dauterive, and as an older man, he's known for drinking and trying to have a good time with his friends despite all the hardships that he's been through in his life.
Now I'm having fun.
Your wife divorced you.
Now, although Bill Dauterive did not become the man that he hoped he would, a lot of people still remember Bill for who he once was.
The Billdozer.
Because in high school, Bill Dauterive was an unstoppable fullback, and rightfully so, most people knew him as the Billdozer. And as great as Bill was when he was young, he still wonders how great he could be if he pursued football fully. So today, I am putting Bill Dauterive into College Football 25. Let's see how the Billdozer would have turned out if he decided to play football after high school, as we'll follow him on his road to glory. Now, going into the college recruitment process, Bill's main focus was winning a championship, just like he did in high school. He also wanted to see the field as a freshman, but that was going to be a little bit of a problem because he was not heavily recruited coming out of high school. He did have a couple options though, and after seeing that his best friend Hank Hill actually decided to sign with Texas, he kind of felt like staying in the area too. So when it came to the Billdozer's college decision, he decided to sign with TCU. Now, as soon as Bill got to college, people had realized early on that he has a chance to become a dominant player. Because in training camp, he was out there just destroying the defense. It started to seem a little too easy for him, so the coaches decided to throw more guys at him, and they still had a hard time stopping him. Now, despite the fact that Bill was showing some early flashes of dominance at practice, the coaches decided to have him sit his freshman season because they already had a couple good running backs in the room. So in the first game of the season, it was all good as TCU went on to win 17-7. But despite being on the bench, Bill was out there still working hard to be better. And then everything seemed to change for him in a game against FCS Midwest. Because although Bill did not play at all in this game, that might have actually been the best thing for him because his name couldn't be attached to this loss. As TCU takes their first L of the season to a horrible team, and now going into the next week, the coaches decided to give Bill a chance to be a difference maker for this offense. And with the chance to start getting some playing time early on in his freshman season after being told that he wouldn't play at all, Bill is out here as locked in as ever, because he wants a chance to make an impact for TCU. And it looks like he's finally going to get a chance as he earns a spot as the second string halfback for this team. And now Bill Dauterive, a once small town legend, is about to start his journey to becoming a legend all throughout the country, as his first ever college football game will be against UCF. Now, Bill actually didn't get in until later on in the second quarter, but when he did, he immediately said "Wang," just absolutely obliterating a dude on his very first play, and that's probably why they decided to bring him back in the fourth quarter to help this team pick up first downs. He would go out there with 2 minutes left, bulldozing defenders and getting his team in position to score a field goal and tie this game up. Now, this game went into overtime and they brought Bill in a receiver, but he's not really much of a pass catcher. Regardless, TCU would go on to score a field goal and actually win this game, finishing the job off in overtime 20-17. And Bill had a solid game, going for 24 yards on the ground and 30 receiving, helping his team come away with a W in the process. Now, going into the following week, Bill was still a backup, but he was working hard to change that eventually because he knew that he could help his team put up more points. But for now, he decided to stay locked in and make the most of his opportunities, as this next game TCU was actually heading on the road to play against an in-state opponent, the SMU Mustangs.
Now in the backfield for let's bring in the number 72, Bill the Billdozer Dauterive.
Now, it seems like the coaches decided to give Bill a gift early on. He wanted to see if he can get his team in for a score, and he goes in untouched. The Billdozer Dauterive is in for his first touchdown of his college football career. This 5'8", 200+ pound monster of a man was unstoppable at the goal line, and he was looking forward to continue to prove that all season. But later on in the fourth quarter, when Bill got back out on the field, he was showing that he had some other skills as well, as he not only makes the catch, but he just destroys everybody in his way on this play. This man had broke off 4 tacklers, and even at the end it takes 2 of them to push him out of bounds. And after making an incredible play that helps get his team in field goal range, the Billdozer had helped his team come away with another victory, as TCU goes on to win this game 17-10. And it was actually a game where Bill Dauterive gets his first player of the game. He only had 2 rushing attempts for 10 yards, but that touchdown and that 1 catch at the end of the game really solidified this performance. And it also solidified him earning an opportunity to become the starting halfback for this team. And if you think the Billdozer was about to miss out on this opportunity, then my friend, you are tripping ballsack. Because Bill was not out there to mess around, man. And by the end of practice, the coaches knew that they had their new guy. So after finally earning the starting spot, Bill's ready to get into his first game as the sole feature back. And in a year when nobody even expected Bill to play, he was looking to continue to try and defy expectations and have an incredible season. But first that begins here in his first game as a starter, as TCU is set to face off against Kansas. Now to start this game off, it actually surprised a lot of people, but Bill was out there saying, "Hey, get the f*** off me," and picking up first downs for his team. Now one thing Bill still had to learn was pass protecting at a college level, because oftentimes he would allow his quarterback to get sacked, but to be fair, even when he had a clean pocket, this offense was still not moving much. The offensive struggles would continue as Bill would trip over his shoelaces on the speed option, forcing them to have to settle for another punt, but somehow their defense actually comes up with a score. So now this offense comes back out on the field up 7-0, and out of nowhere they are finally able to start getting things going. They got down to the goal line where on 1st and goal, Bill powers his way in the end zone for a score. The first touchdown of the day on offense that puts this game at 14-0. But little did Bill know that this lead would only last for so long, because by the 4th quarter their offense had stalled out, and they were down in this game by 1. And at this point they were resorting to Bill playing wide receiver, and he was actually coming up with some big plays. He helped his team get down to the goal line where he blocked for his quarterback as he got in the end zone for a score to take the lead. But with 1 minute left, Kansas had enough time to go down and score, sending this game into overtime, where after tying it up, Bill Dauterive is the guy to get in the end zone for a score to take the lead for TCU. But this just resulted in another opportunity where, once again tied up, Bill was able to get in for the 2-point conversion to finally put this game away, as TCU goes on to win their second game in overtime on the season, 37-35. And the Billdozer goes on to win player of the game once again. He scored 2 touchdowns and had 69 yards, which is something that he wouldn't mind doing with this girl that asked him to go to a party. It's too bad that it wasn't this one girl, Peggy, though, because Bill had a crazy crush on her. And even though she mostly thought of him as a friend, he liked being around her. So he was looking forward to her coming to his game in a couple weeks. But for now, Bill just had to keep getting better and try to help his team come away with another win, as TCU is heading back home to face off against another in-state opponent, the Houston Cougars. Now to start this game off, the Billdozer was bulldozing over defenders early. He helped his team get into the red zone before eventually helping them get to goal territory, where it wasn't long after that he steamrolled across the goal line for a touchdown, putting this game at 7-0 early on in the first quarter. Now, unfortunately, the lead did not last long, and it was about to get even worse after they failed this 3rd down, and all of a sudden TCU gets the ball back in the 3rd quarter down by 2 possessions. So now the Billdozer was tasked with trying to lead his team back to the end zone, and eventually he would get the chance to after he got some great blocks. And just like that, he is going in untouched. He got in for his 2nd touchdown of the day, but he knows that there's still going to be more work to do after they get the ball back down by 1 possession. And in crunch time, the Billdozer was showing up big for his team, breaking off a bunch of tacklers and leading them right back to the red zone, where after getting them to 1st and goal, he actually jumps over a guy for a touchdown. Or at least I think that was a jump. Regardless, this game was heading into another overtime tied at 21, but TCU was out there scoring a touchdown to take the lead by 7. Unfortunately, it seems like Houston's offense was on a roll this game, because they went right back down the field and took the lead right back. And even though the Billdozer would force his way across the goal line for another score to tie this game up, when it came to the 2-point conversion, he would actually go on to get stopped. And sadly, this resulted in TCU losing another game on their season, taking a loss in this one 38-36. And it was actually a game where Bill had his best game of the year, 191 yards and 4 touchdowns. And despite the loss, he would actually go on to win his first National Offensive Player of the Week. The Billdozer had a great game, but he knew he had to do more if he wanted to help his team get back to winning. But it definitely wasn't going to be easy with the schedule that they had coming up, as their next one would be a tough one on the road with TCU set to face off against Utah. Now to start this game off, Bill is somehow making his catch, and he's even out there saying hey, but he just wasn't able to pick up the first down. TCU's offensive struggles would continue though into the 2nd quarter as their quarterback throws a pick. It seems like it wouldn't be until right up before halftime that TCU would start getting things going, as the quarterback would actually find a man in the back of the end zone for a score, taking the lead with less than 30 seconds left before half. When TCU got the ball in the 2nd half, the Billdozer was leading a long and methodical drive on the ground. It extended into the 4th quarter where they finally got it to 3rd and goal, but Bill wasn't able to secure the catch for the touchdown, and TCU was forced to settle for 3. And since TCU is playing against the 5th-ranked team in the country, it's no surprise they went right down the field and scored a touchdown to tie this game up, sending it into another overtime on TCU's season. Now, it didn't take long for Bill to work his way across the goal line for a score. And after Utah failed to put up a touchdown on their next possession, TCU was now giving the Billdozer a chance to put this game away. and with the Horned Frogs literally putting it in his hands, the Billdozer would power his way across the goal line for another touchdown on the game as he finally did enough to put this one away, as TCU goes on to win their third overtime game of the season. And Bill went on to win player of the game as he led his team in the biggest moments down the stretch. Now at this point, Bill Dauterive knew that he was absolutely nowhere near his max potential, and he knew he wasn't going to reach it in his freshman year, but for now he was just going to take advantage of every opportunity to grow, as TCU's next game would be against another top-ranked team, the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Now this was actually a game where Bill did not have to do much. He was really playing that fullback role as his team was getting most of the yards, but he would eventually cap the opening drive off with a touchdown to put him up 7-0. In the second quarter, it was more of the same as his teammates were coming up with some big plays to move the sticks. But by the end of the drive, it was Bill Dauterive once again who was finishing it off with another score, extending TCU's lead in the game where in the second half, they focused a lot on just trying to chew the clock. And after they did so successfully leading late into the fourth quarter, they had done enough to put this game away, as TCU would go on to escape this game by only 1 point. And Bill Dauterive was going on to win player of the game with only less than 60 yards rushing. His presence down at the goal line could not be understated though. But now at 6-2, the Billdozer's main focus has become getting this team to become ranked. He's going to try to help get this team into the college football playoffs, but in order to do that, he has to help his team win the remaining games on their schedule. But it's definitely not going to be easy, as next up they are traveling back on the road and facing off against another in-state opponent, the Baylor Bears. Now to start this game off, Bill was doing a great job moving the sticks on third down for his team. And once he got down to the goal line, he actually was out there at receiver, and he was able to get in for a pretty easy touchdown to make this 7-0. It was a great way for TCU to start this game, but it was about to get a little bit better, as the Billdozer was helping his team move right back downfield, getting them back to the goal line where he walks in for his second score of the game, and in the crowd he can actually see Peggy out there cheering him on. Bill was definitely happy that she came. So going into halftime, he made it his focus to try to close this game out for her. And by the end of this game, he was doing an excellent job with that. Because with Baylor still unable to find a way to put a stop to the Billdozer, this first down right here had done enough to put an end to this game, as TCU goes on to win this game 14-0, and the Billdozer wins player of the game with over 100 yards rushing. That's only his second time going for over 100 yards this year, and he's looking to keep that up as the next week he's working on his speed. And his team's definitely going to need it as their next games against another top-ranked opponent, as they're set to match up against the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Now this opening drive for TCU was very long as they continued to get pushed to third and even fourth down. Nevertheless, the Billdozer was taking care of business early on as he bulldozes his way across the goal line for a score, getting in for a touchdown to make this 7-0, and everything seemed to be going great for TCU in this game. But when they got the ball back still up 7, the quarterback was out there throwing an interception, a horrible one that goes all the way to the crib for a touchdown to tie this game up. And now in the second half, the Billdozer was trying his best to get his team back in position for a score. TCU would eventually get a drive late in the fourth quarter with a chance to win it, and the Billdozer was leading the way as he got them down towards field goal range. And when he got Oklahoma State to start using their timeouts after getting stopped on third down, he had set his team up with a game-winning field goal to put this one away, as TCU would go on to finish this defensive battle off 10-7. And Bill Dauterive was on a roll, going for another 100-yard game with a touchdown. He was playing so well at this point that he was starting to get a lot of attention from the media, and he started to have reporters ask questions about how he deals with being so physical while playing.
Hemorrhage and embolism, even detached retina. It sounded scary, but when you smell the goal line, they're only words. Just words.
Hey man, as y'all can see, this boy Bill was ready to put damn near his life on the line for his team, and that's probably why he felt great going into the remaining games of this season, as TCU was looking to close it out strong in their next game against Arizona. Now, it would take all the way until the end of the first half for Bill to finally get in the end zone for a score, a receiving touchdown nonetheless, and actually it was great that he was showing this ability out of the backfield. But he was still out there showing what he earned the starting spot for, as down at the goal line, people didn't even want to tackle him. He just walked in for another score that would effectively put an end to this game, as TCU goes on to win 17-10, and Bill leads the way with 88 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. But now heading into the last game of the regular season, this Bill Dauterive-led TCU team is ready to close it out with another victory, as they are heading on the road to face off against Cincinnati. Now this was actually a game where the TCU offense had struggled greatly all throughout. The Billdozer though was doing just enough to get them in field goal range when it mattered most, and also at the biggest points of the game he was able to keep this clock moving to take Cincinnati's timeouts and officially put an end to the regular season, as they go on to close this game out 10-6, and Bill Dauterive finishes his regular season with a 92-yard rushing game. Now, after an incredible season, the TCU Horned Frogs are heading to the Big 12 championship. And in a year where Bill Dauterive is only a couple hundred yards away from reaching 1,000 yards on the season, the coaches figured why not try to chip away at that heavily in their next game. As in what's surely their biggest game of the season, they might as well use their best player as much as they can. So in the Big 12 championship, TCU is looking forward to unleashing their biggest weapon on their next opponent, Texas Tech. Now, it did not take long in this game for the Red Raiders to see that they might have some problems, because on TCU's opening possession, the Billdozer pretty much carried them all the way downfield, moving them towards the goal line where right at the start of the second quarter, he's getting them in the end zone for a score, putting this game at 7-0 to begin the second quarter. And at the end of the second quarter, he is still obliterating players in his way. He found a way to move his team well beyond midfield, but for whatever reason, the coaches actually decided to take him out the game. Regardless though, TCU would still go on to score and make this game 14-0. But TCU would actually get the ball back right before half, and the Billdozer was Bildozing all over the field, convincing the coaches that maybe they had enough time to take a shot downfield. And on first down and 10, the quarterback actually finds a man. This receiver is making the catch and streaking upfield towards the end zone for a score to make this 21-0 right before half. An incredible play that led to a 21-7 lead in the fourth quarter. But with Bill literally putting these dudes face down in the dirt while picking up first downs, things were starting to look real bad for Texas Tech. And after the second down and goal where Bill was able to take this handoff and make his way across the goal line for another touchdown on the game, he had finally done enough to help his team put this game away, as TCU goes on to win the Big 12 championship 28-7, absolutely dominating their opponent. And it was all thanks to Bill Dauterive, who was dominant on the ground, going for over 175 yards and 2 touchdowns in the biggest game of the season. But now that TCU is Big 12 champions, the season is over and it's time to give out some awards. A quarterback out of Ohio State goes on to win the Heisman Trophy, but the Billdozer as a freshman goes on to earn First Team All Big 12 and First Team All American. An astonishing accomplishment as he ends the season with 975 yards and 16 touchdowns. Rightfully so, he would go on to win a bunch of other awards and even finish second in the best running back race. But after such an incredible season from TCU's young playmaker, they are finally here in the college football playoffs. And after having a schedule all season that most people wouldn't consider the toughest, they're about to head into by far their hardest game of the year. As in their first matchup of the playoffs, TCU is set to face off against Ohio State. To start this game off, this TCU offense was definitely struggling a lot early on, but they would stay persistent and continue to give the ball to their best player, and he would eventually lead them down to the goal line on this 3rd and goal, where he breaks off a tackle in the backfield and gets in the end zone for a score, putting up some points that takes the 7-0 lead early on. And now things are looking good for TCU as they get the ball back 7-3. But with a chance to build on the lead, the Billdozer is fumbling crazy. That ball got sent all the way to Zimbabwe, and Ohio State would get the ball back to take the eventual 10-7 lead. Now, this didn't mean TCU was about to give up, and they definitely stayed locked in before half. Bill Dauterive, along with some other playmakers on his team, were coming up with some big yardage before half, eventually getting them to this first down with less than 15 seconds left, where the quarterback was able to find a man in the back of the end zone for a score to take the lead, putting them up 14-10 right before half, but Ohio State would come right back and put it at 17-14. And unfortunately, everything would begin to change at the start of the fourth quarter, because after they put the Billdozer out there at wide receiver, he gets confused on this route. He thought that they were throwing the ball to somebody else, and he runs away, and this ball ends up easily getting picked off. Now, luckily, it turns out that it was actually okay because Ohio State didn't score any points. But the same thing cannot be said for this interception, as Ohio State is easily taking this one back for a pick six to extend their lead to 2 possessions. And now, with less than 2 minutes left in this game, as TCU has taken way too much time off the clock to get towards the end zone, they unfortunately come up short, and Ohio State is putting an end to their season. They go on to lose this game 24-14, and it was actually a game where the Billdozer had probably, if not definitely, the worst game of the year. To be fair, he did still go for over 100 combined yards on the day, but it still didn't change how he felt after the game when the reporters were asking him how he felt about the loss.
I'm so depressed I can't even blink.
Now, by the end of the year, the Oregon Ducks would actually go on to beat Ohio State in the national championship. And for his final season stats, the Billdozer just barely gets over 1,000 yards rushing, ending with 1,009 and 17 touchdowns to go along with 585 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. But after having such a great year, Honestly, Bill is contemplating whether or not TCU is the place for him. I mean, he had pretty much carried this team all season, and he felt like maybe he should go somewhere that would bring the absolute most out of him. So going into his sophomore season, Bill Dauterive definitely had a decision to make. But I'll leave that decision up to you guys. If you want to see a part 2 of this video, be sure to get this one to 1,000 likes and subscribe to the channel down below. Also be sure to comment down below what else you guys want to see next, and YouTube thinks you'll like one of these other stories until the next one comes out. If you got to this point in the video, just know that I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. I hope all of your NFL and college football teams are making some good moves this offseason, and other than that, I'm gonna catch you guys next time.